Oh my god. This is just a mess. Alright, everybody, what's going on? I need a haircut fast. It's getting a little bit out of hand. I think it's been a solid month plus since I got a haircut. Yeah. Alright, everybody, what's going on? What's going on? My god. This is just a mess. Alright. Hope you guys are doing good. Subject to change? Is that I subject to change? Why can't I zoom in on this? Hold on. 1 second. I subject to change. Welcome to the Yonko. Thank you very, very much for joining. Make sure to check out. Obviously, you get access to all of the Yonko tier podcasts that come out. Check out the recent one from this Saturday. I think that's a good one. And yeah, just try out the emotes in the chat. Thank you very, very much for the support. I really appreciate it. Cheers. Thanks for joining. This is not alcoholic. This is a zero sugar cream soda root beer thing. What is going on? What is going on? By hair? Yeah, it's funny. Thanks everybody for I guess adjusting to the. So let's talk about this real quick. So Saturday, right? So Saturday, there's no Tuesday video. So we're shifting to Saturday videos. How does everybody feel about that? Right? I don't know if everybody got a chance to watch the latest video. Next Saturday's video, I think, is a very interesting subject. I think that's a very interesting subject. So this one was more just like a hype up Loki type video because I figured people are excited, you know, from what we saw of Loki. And I feel like that's been received well. But yeah, let me just get a gauge. Do people feel good about the... I didn't see much discussion in the comments and stuff about like, oh, what's happening to Tuesday video, Saturday video and stuff. So are people good with that? From my perspective, Saturday morning video is better. It was supposed to come out Saturday morning. That's a situation where there was not expectations set on, I think, both ends between ourselves and the new editor. So we just got to get the rhythm down. But the idea is that soon it'll be Saturday mornings that the video will come out. This came out Saturday afternoon, but I think the editor did a very good job. Read the chat log? What's the chat log? Oh my god. Brandon E6146 dropped a whole story in here. Let's see. Initially, I thought it was Jormungandr because the hybrid form looked like the Boa sister hybrids, and because Rox insisted that the fruit was necessary for his goals. Rox referred to Emu as the world, and Jormungandr as the world serpent. Then my thoughts changed to Fenrir because Fenrir was changed up until the end of the world and ate Odin. Interesting. Emu is the king of the gods. I also felt that this matched to the silhouette. I thought it'd be Nidhogg because Nidhogg lives in Niflheim, but now we know Niflheim is Ragnar's power. We also received confirmation from the official translation that Loki can fly. We can rule out Fenrir, Garm, Sleipnir, Jormungandr, etc. because of this. Loki's hybrid transformation mouth is upturned rather than downturned, so we can rule out Hresvelgur, Hugin, and Munin. I didn't even know they were in contention. Our best options are Nidhogg and Fafnir. Nidhogg is associated with Ratatoskr, so that is a possibility. However, in One Piece, Nidhogg is known as the Lightning Dragon, and Ragnar already has lightning powers, so Loki doesn't need lightning powers. When Ragnar was tied up with Loki with Sea Stone, it took the form of a hammer, so we can just confirm it is a hammer that ate the squirrel fruit. Good points. And Loki was tied up with Sea Stone when he attacked the Atom Tree, so we know that lightning is Ragnar's powers. So he doesn't need any more lightning powers. We also see Nidhogg from killing him, but we haven't seen Fafnir, so Nidhogg isn't likely. All really, really good points. All really, really, really good points. I think that to sum it all up, his fruit is the Fafnir fruit. But Fafnir is like, I've never heard of it. Like, let me put it simply. Obviously it doesn't matter that I've never heard of it, right? But okay, let's take a look. We'll list out our options shortly, right? So thank you very much for, honestly, great stuff, man. Great stuff. We can actually, I'm gonna straight up copy and paste so everyone shouts to Brandon E6146. because honestly, I'm going to copy and paste some of your thoughts because it does help us. It is a thorough study of Norse mythology that is very useful to what we're trying to do today. So thank you very much for that, man. So shouts for that. I don't know if I agree with the conclusion. You might be 100% correct, but I now need to look into what the hell is a Fafnir, you know? So let's find out. Here, let me paste this shit. Let me paste everything you said. Okay. You guys will see that in a second. We're going to get the stream together. We got to ease into things. Okay. Shouts to whoever told me to read the stream log chat. Long hair Morge had rocks level aura for real. You guys told me the long hair was terrible, and you told me to get it cut all the fucking time. And each time, every single time, I considered like, should I keep it or not keep it? I'd do a poll, and they'd be like 50% keep, 50% cut. I think there was always more cuts than keeps, but there was enough keeps that I was like, I could make it work over a long period of time. But I just don't think my hair is not suited to be long. Dare Boppler, thanks to the 5. For Loki to rival Luffy, he needs 2 wings. Kid and Law, they were defeated right before Loki was introduced, and they parallel and rival Zoro and Sanji. That is an interesting idea, but I feel like Loki might be more of a lone wolf-esque figure. I have a lot of thoughts on the Luffy and Loki parallel ideas here. But I think it's okay. So put it this way, right? Rox and Harold were counterparts, but Rox is the one who had his whole crew and everything, and Harold was just, well, Harold had a kingdom under him, but he didn't have specific, wings or anything. I guess Dory and Brogy. But Harold was more of an island later on, right? And then Roger Pirates and Roger and Whitebeard were the counterparts. I always felt like Whitebeard never had a really strong crew compared to Roger. Like, Marco's cool and Joseph's cool, but they're not like legends like Rayleigh and Gaban and stuff like that. They're not like Rayleigh and Gaban are conquerors, hockey monsters, yada yada, I don't know. I feel like Loki's just his own thing. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick. Crow Stray God, thanks for the 10. If each Straw went back in time but weren't allowed to intervene with past actions, who would be able to restrain themselves from stepping in, seeing how each of their friends are being treated? That's a very interesting question. Okay, they went in time but aren't allowed to intervene. Who would be able to restrain themselves from stepping in, seeing how each of their friends are being treated? Luffy wouldn't. He's just too... I don't think he'd understand the concept of time travel enough to understand why he's not allowed to do things. I think Zoro also might be too dumb to do it. I think, honestly, this is just an IQ test question, because all of the Strats should know, pretty much, right, that things work out for all of them. Yeah, they have tough childhoods and shit, but Sanji's not going to be stuck on that rock forever. He's going to get off the rock, right? Zoro's, Zoro didn't have the hardest childhood. You know what I mean? Chopper's going to get bullied for a while, but it will work out for him. He'll find his family. So, Robin, I think it might be especially hard, but ultimately they'd know. I think it's an IQ test more than anything. I think Zoro and Luffy fail, and Luffy especially jumps in and intervenes the first sign he sees of someone mistreating one of his friends. And then, the entire space-time continuum is fucked. I think everybody else is probably fine. I think everybody else would be okay. As if the rules were explained. If the rules were explained to them. Not just you're not allowed to intervene, but if you intervene, the whole world is fucked. Or, all of existence is fucked. I think everybody else would be okay. Look at the artwork of Fafnir. Okay, let's look at Fafnir real quick. Oh, Fafnir looks sick. I didn't realize Fafnir's a dragon. Hold on. Lil Emu 56. That's a cool name. Thanks for the 5. Tekking thinks Loki's devil fruit could be Verdfulnir and Eagle. So it's 2 things, Vedrfolnir and Eagle from Norse mythology. It almost matches the silhouette exactly and thematically makes sense. Okay, so we got some good options here. Hold on. Let me screen share for you guys. We've got some good options. So Fafnir is 1. And then Ved, this is a Tekking pick. Vedfornir and Eagle. What does it mean, Vedfornil and Eagle? What the fuck does that mean? Okay, all right. I guess might as well pull up like what we're actually looking at here, right? Um, actually, sorry, this one. Oh, also another point that goes into this. Oh, it's 1171. Oh yeah, 1170. This is just a random thing. Again, the video that I put out talking about how Loki, the moment Loki killed Harold, my argument is that the moment Loki killed Harold, he became the world's strongest creature. Emu not included, obviously. I think the official translation, just if we take a peek at this, pretty much confirms that. I'm not saying Loki is necessarily still the strongest today. We don't know. Today it's like, it depends. How do you rate Dragon, right? How strong do you think Shanks did become strong enough to beat Loki just straight up, right? Because Shanks is obviously nowhere close to Loki right now, right? Do you think, and what does that mean for Mihawk then, in that case, if Shanks is now strong enough, right? So there's more question marks today. But I'm saying in this period of time, 14 years ago, the moment Loki killed Harold, Loki should have become the world's strongest creature. Because I think the official pretty much confirms it, kind of making the whole video I just did unnecessary. But Gaban basically explains, I had a terrible vision, plain as day, of Harold venturing forth from this castle and laying waste to the world until it was nothing but ruins. It's hard to imagine, with the way his wounds healed themselves, that there was actually a means to stop him. So Gaban literally says that if Harold exited this castle, he destroys the world, right? And Gaban is basically like, I literally cannot imagine someone stopping him, right? That's fucking insane, because this is a world where there are, at this point, Yonko. Like, Whitebeard is still close to his prime, if not in his prime, right? This was 14 years ago. You got Big Mom, Kaido, all established and everything like that. You got, obviously, admirals, Gorosei, yada yada. And they've all got empires. All the Yonko, all of them have empires and everything like that at this point. It's like, Pod's pretty much just like, yeah, I don't think anyone, like, anything, he says pretty clearly, like, he thinks the whole world is fucked. Which is kind of insane. Like, that is insane scaling for Harold, because Gaban is a dude that knows what the fuck he's talking about. Like, this is the most experienced pirate in the world, alongside Rayleigh at this point, right? Like, if any, the pirates who have seen the most out of anybody are the Roger pirates, right? So Gaban and Rayleigh, the two most experienced and knowledgeable pirates in existence. If they're saying that this was the end of, like, Harold was the one who could end the world, then that puts Loki at an insane level, right? And it's consistent, because that's basically what Gaban talks about today too, where he's like, Luffy, I heard you beat Kaido, but that doesn't mean you should release Loki. That's a big no. Anyway, let's get to the silhouette. I just thought that was interesting, that the official basically leaves very little room for interpretation. Okay, let's get to the silhouettes. Who's stronger, Loki or Roger? Stop downplaying Roger. By all rights, Loki should be stronger than Roger. I don't... It's entirely possible that I'm overrating him. It's entirely possible, but I'm trying to be as just look at the facts as possible. There's nothing in the story that would indicate that Roger is above Loki. Because, like, I think Roger versus Harold is a toss-up. And I like Roger. I'm going to give that to Roger, right? I like Roger better. I'll say Roger beats Harold, right? But this was something else. This was, okay, well, now what if we put Harold on steroids and make him immortal, right? That's a very, very different scenario. If you believe that Harold, this version of Harold, is similar to Dami Reversi Rocks, right? I still think Dami Reversi Rocks is probably stronger than this version of Harold. Maybe that's supposed to be even or relative as well. But no one was beating Dami Reversi. Like, I think everyone can agree, like, Dami Reversi Rocks, it's not like anybody else is really beating that guy, right? The only thing I could think of that'd be comparable is this version of Harold, and then Loki turned out to be equal to that. So it's not downplaying Roger. it's not saying Roger is, to me, downplaying Roger would be like trying to argue Roger below the level that I already viewed him at, which was like really high. Like, I think of Roger as stronger than pretty much all the modern day pirates and everything like that, Yonko, yada yada. But this is just saying that I think Loki, based on all reasonable shit that we've been shown, should be above that, right? All right, continuing on. Let's figure out this bird situation. So Loki's stronger than Luffy right now, then, because if he is, then he can't ever join the crew. I don't I don't know why people think Loki's joining the crew. He doesn't fit his character. He's way stronger. He's definitely stronger than Luffy right now at full strength, which is why Oda nerfed him. Um, I don't think there's any way Loki's joining the crew. It would eliminate if Loki joins the crew. You know how many roles he fills? He is now clearly supplanting Zoro, right? Like people have joked like Zoro's role is gone, and then Ragnar is now the third strongest, right? So Zoro and Sanji's roles are gone, and really Chopper's role is gone too, because Ragnar is a far better and cuter mascot than Chopper is, right? Like how many things are going away? How many people are losing their jobs with this, right? And I think Loki was a navigator too, right? I think there's something to that. I might be misremembering, but I think Elbaf giants are good at navigation. This is pretty good. This is the first I've had of these. Who else loses their job? Usopp's not getting Ragnar, that's for sure. I don't know. Anyway, let's get stream likes up to 50 real quick. Let's get stream likes up to 50. All right, continuing on. Knut Worgen, thanks for the 5. Yo, Morch, hope your holidays went well. My prediction is the Hebi no Mi model Nika. I think Oda made up a new thing because Loki is too much of a goat. I think that would be really cool because there's been... Look, one, that would... I would love if there's another model of the Nika fruit because it would mean that I was correct. Because that's one of my earliest theories, which is in this arc, which is that Loki is an evil version of the... or a dark version of the Nika fruit, basically. So that would be cool if that turns out to be the case. But the thing is that Rox was surprised when he heard about Nika. So that's what's confusing. So maybe Rox doesn't have full information about what the... Because Rox knows about the fruit, but he didn't really... Like, Nika was a surprise to him when Loki brought up Nika. Also, this doesn't seem to match any of Nika's... Like, it's a four-legged creature, so it doesn't really match any of what anybody seems to believe Nika to be. So I've been told to look at this, right? That's interesting. Oh, that's really interesting. But how could you be two things? Is that a stupid question? How can a zone be two things? Okay, so am I looking at this? This is the closest silhouette we have of this of... I don't think that Wolfnor and Eagle is correct because it just seems so specific and it's like a duo zone, which we've never had before. But Tekking has been spot on with some of this stuff, like really, really well. Like, I remember he guessed it was Roto who had captured the Straw Hats in Elbaf, and that seemed like a really out of left field call, but he was completely correct because he matched the design to the design. So, I can't say it's not possible. It's certainly possible. This would be wild, though, if it's two things in one. That's interesting. The Hebi no Mi model Nika is an interesting idea, because I do think there's a lot of things that support the notion that there might be different versions of the Nika fruit. But the only problem with that is that, as far as we know, there's no version of Nika that anybody has talked about that is a uh, a snake, right? Heavy. Doesn't seem to line up. All versions of Nika that we've seen in murals, in the way characters talk, etc., silhouettes, be that who's who talking or Jarl talking about Nika, it's always been, you know, um, yeah, it's always been like a human. There is something interesting that gives me a callback to, though, which is so if we go back here, this I think this is a curious line. So let's take a look at this. Now I'm remembering this. Right? If we go along with the possibility of the fruit being related to Nika. Okay, here we go. He is the god of the sun. It is those without hope who seek him the most. So, signs that Loki could be Nika, right? Signs that there's potential. Loki calls himself the sun god who will destroy the world or whatever. But yeah, nothing matches. Nika wears white clouds, appears with white hair, clothes, and jolly laughter. Yeah, so I don't think the Loki theory makes sense. But this line I thought was interesting. Even Loki and the late Harold, in a sense, are the result of attempting to be Nika, perhaps. What do you mean? What does he mean by Harold was an attempt to be Nika? Because Harold never fucking talks about Nika. So these are the things that make me wonder if it is something like if the fruit is related to Nika, or if I'm taking that too literally. I think I might be taking that too literally. Ender, always good to see you, man. Thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 40 months. Use that newfound free time to read Kagurabachi. Okay, so literally, no joke whatsoever. Yesterday, Sunday, I had a full free day. I did almost sit down to read Kagurabachi. I ended up just like doom scrolling and like looking around on YouTube and stuff a lot. And I played Black Myth Wukong for a few hours. So I did not get started on Kagurabachi. I'm also kind of rereading Fire Force a little bit, actually. Not rereading, but like, I'm just going back through old manga a little bit, because there's multiple manga that have, that I was looking forward to that are having their anime adaptations come out right now. I'm looking forward to the rest of Fire Force's anime, actually, because they had a new episode that came out that covered a fight pretty well, and it has me looking forward to the rest of the series, because I actually think, if you're not a Fire Force fan, you could probably even tune in right now. And I think this next stretch of the next, like now till the end of the series, so it's like about 10 episodes left to close out the series, I think every episode is going to have a pretty good fight in it. So should be a pretty high production sort of climax to the series. Okay, Goofy needs to 1v9 his useless crew and throw them overboard to make space for Wokey and Wagner. Nowhere Bumslop does anything worthwhile to make Elbaf his arc at this point. This I'm not I don't agree. I don't agree, but I think it's funny. I don't agree, but I do think that Loki and Ragnar would be too unfair for the crew. The Veth is the bird on top of the eagle, but the eagle is unnamed. Okay. Eric. Oh, wait, what's this say? Sorry. 1 second. Eric, what's up, man? Thanks for the 5. I think we have to take into account the narrative power of Pirate King. Don't forget the goal of the narrative can't lose its power. It's a shonen. I agree, but the problem, Eric, is that things changed, right? So once things started open, like that's kind of like saying Roger's above Joy Boy because this is a story about Pirate King, right? Which we know isn't the case. The moment the story started to open up to be about a lot more than the modern world, because like Pirate King's the thing everyone's been competing for the last 20 years, right? You could argue 40 if you want to go a little further back or something and say like that's when like the Age of Pirates or whatever. But the scope, of the story became a lot bigger than Pirate King, and Pirate King kind of turned into just like what what's recent generations have been about, but now we know the whole deal is way, way, way bigger, right? So with that in mind, right, now that we know that really this is a story about bringing the dawn of the world, the tricky thing, Eric, is that in that context, Loki is a much bigger deal than Roger. A much, much bigger deal. Because again, if we go back to, like, we could look at the mural, right? So we could look at the mural. Well, we could look at the mural and we could break it down, and that gets very speculative. But you could also just look at, like, what characters have explained, right? Which is like, what characters have explained is basically like, there's gonna be I think I might be one chapter off. Am I one chapter off? Yeah. There's two fruits that are the key to taking down Emu, right? There's two fruits that are the key to taking down Emu, and the idea is that Rox would have one, Harold would have one, and then that's the way that, the things are going to shake out, right? So there's two really, like, world-breaking fruits out there that's reiterated multiple times, and there's sort of like this destined idea that, if Rox and Harold teamed up, then they'd be the ones to overthrow the world, right? Like, if me and Harold team up, who could possibly stop us? Yada, yada, right? So there's this idea that's being introduced more and more that it's like the idea of a duo or a team up. I'm not saying it's going to be a team up to defeat Emu or anything like that, but the role that Loki now has, like, if Luffy's the destined one in the sense that he ate the Nika fruit, Loki, by being the first to eat this other fruit, even if it's introduced late in the game, Loki being the destined one who ate this other fruit that for like centuries and centuries has been passed down and held dormant, and supposedly is the other key to bringing the dawn of the world and yada yada, that immediately puts Loki in a much more significant position than Roger, right? What Roger did was he was the one who, like, the big picture is what we're really fighting for, right? Dawn of the world, overthrowing God, yada yada. That's from Joy Boy's time, right? That's the big picture. Over many centuries, people came and went, etc. And then Roger is essentially the most recent figure to have gotten to, to have gotten a little closer to putting the pieces together, right? And then announcing that to the world. That's Roger's biggest thing, right? He announced to the world, hey, go chase after this, the One Piece, yada yada, right? But in the grand scheme of things, Roger's role is essentially not that much bigger of a deal than Vegapunk's role, right? Roger's ultimate role was basically, he didn't give the One Piece to anybody. He didn't, like, retrieve it. He didn't whatever. He kind of just shouted out, like, there's a thing that you guys need to look for. So that now contextualizes Roger's role a lot more, right? It's similar to Vegapunk in terms of shout out to the world that I need, like, you all need this, right? Even the idea that, like, well, Pirate King is Luffy's dream, that's true. And you're like, well, that's shonen logic. But shonen logic, if we want to play that game, then, like, Naruto's goal was Hokage. That doesn't mean that the Hokage are stronger than everybody else in the story, right? As it turned out, Naruto's actual role was far bigger than just that, right? The dream was Hokage, and that's really what gives the character the through line. But now, as we got to the end of Naruto, we learned that there's much bigger shit than Hokage, right? Same thing, like, you could look through other series where characters start off with, like, I want this goal, right? Black Clover, I want to be the Wizard King. The Wizard King, Julius Novachrono, is not the strongest character in Black Clover in the grand scheme of things. So, like, that argument actually hurts the argument that Roger should still be considered the strongest. And it ignores what the story of One Piece has actually opened up to become, right? If at this point you think that Roger's role is bigger than what it seems like Loki's role is set up to be, I would just fundamentally disagree. And dude, you should be liking this, because, like, in theory, if Loki really is stronger than Pirate King level, and in theory, if Shanks straight up beat Loki, then what's your you should be happy. You should be like, this is actually, even in a Shanks fan's wildest dreams, I don't think they could have imagined that Shanks beat a character that is above Prime Roger and Prime Whitebeard. You should be celebrating this if this actually happened. Now, I don't know if Shanks actually beat Loki. I don't know about all that. I think that we need a lot more details, because last we saw Shanks and Loki are on good terms. And I think it would be really crazy if Shanks actually beat... I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility. Shanks is the one character whose hockey has been compared to Joy Boy's, right? But I think we can all agree that Shanks, as he is right now in this flashback, nowhere close to Loki as far as we can tell. Obviously, he needs to get stronger, but this was back during... That's what's confusing. This was the era where the world's strongest swordsman duels were happening, right? And Shanks is like nowhere even remotely close to Loki. So it's like, how much stronger would Shanks have gotten? And then how? And then what really? Tom, thanks for the 2. Jinbei loses fireman job with Ragnar's ice powers. True, and delivery man job probably with Ratatoskr or Ragnar probably wanting to do that job as well. Because I've heard the squirrel delivers messages or something like that. I subject to change. Welcome to Pirate King tier. Thank you very, very much for joining. I hope you enjoyed. Check out last week's Pirate King podcast. It's huge. These are huge monthly podcasts that come out where I cover every single question that a Pirate King member submits in great detail. So please watch out for those. You get a whole treasure. I think there's 30 of them out at this point. And then at the end of this month, you can get your own submission in for that. Yeah, it's possible Shanks is stronger than the old gen. Here's the way I'm looking at it, right? Shanks is now this enigma figure where I don't know where to put him. So I'm kind of shifting him out of my rankings until we get better details on, like, did he straight up beat Loki, whatever, right? Because that's important, right? But Loki is easier to scale based on the things we know, because we actually have a lot on the character already, you know? Crow Stray God, thanks to the 2. Odds of Loki's willpower trumping Dami Reversi. Loki's willpower trumping Dami Reversi. That would be insane. Because, like, Rox and Harold couldn't do that, so that would be... If a character can trump Dami Reversi, then they have, like, the strongest hockey, like, ever. Probably only Joy Boy or whatever. Eric, thanks for 2. Nika brings the dawn. That's what Harold wanted. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Jordan Vance says, Morge, we need to do a worst anime adaptation tier list. That actually sounds really fun. That sounds really fun. I would say you guys want me to vote One Punch Man, right? Roger's in the end-all be-all. He was pre-timed. I think Roger stopped being the end-all be-all as of Wano. Because Wano basically opened up the idea of, like... That's where we really started... We'd heard the name Joy Boy before, but at, like, Fishman Island. And we didn't really have any context, right? Wano is where we started hearing about, like, the Roger, like, the big picture Roger, which was actually Joy Boy. And then we had the realization that Roger was that dude for the recent era, but Joy Boy is the bigger picture situation. But Roger still felt like a huge deal in Wano because, at least in terms of relevant stuff that we'd seen, Roger and Whitebeard, their clash was the most important clash, like the most craziest clash in One Piece. We got the sense that they're still above everybody else. You got Kaido at the end of Wano talking about how Roger's hockey trumps all, etc., right? So Roger was still that dude. I would say, you know what? It's really just Elbaf that's really started to shift things. It's really Elbaf. Elbaf introduced a lot really fast. Berserk. I haven't seen Berserk's adaptation. Eric says, I'm not saying he's top billing anymore, but let's not stack 20 people above him, lol. I think Loki's not a weird character to stack above him. Because if Loki really is Luffy's most important counterpart in the final war or whatever, then that's a normal character to have above Roger. Obviously Joy Boy, Emu, I think there's no debate there, right? And then I think there's characters that are in Roger's tier, and you could debate it however, right? Which is like, obviously Rox, Whitebeard we already knew, Garp we already knew, right? Like these are characters that are on the same playing field as Roger. I think most would agree Rox, most would agree, in that case, obviously Harold, right? But Loki is being firmly cemented, it seems like, above those characters, because Loki seems like he's gonna be that dude in the final war, right? Then there's the characters I view as question marks, which are like, we're just gonna have to wait to see what Oda has stored for them in the final war. So that's the Shanks, Dragon, Mihawk group, where it's like, they could fall to me anywhere. Like, they could be Pirate King tier, like alongside Roger and stuff at this point. I think that's possible. They could be Yonko tier, like most people had them at for the better part of the story, right? Like more so slotting in alongside Kaido, Big Mom, and stuff. They could be above the Pirate King tier, up there with Loki, you know? Especially if Shanks did beat Loki straight up. What does that mean for Mihawk? And then the potential for Dragon is obviously insane. Yada, yada. Yeah, pre-time skip Roger, I would never believe anyone was at or above his level. Yeah, pre-time skip Roger was like the god of the story. And like the biggest thing was this legend that like Whitebeard was, there was only one man who was able to fight toe to toe with him ever. And that was Whitebeard. And that really cemented the mythos of Roger. Especially once we saw like Ancient dying like on like life support, heart attack, having Whitebeard roll up to Marineford, and everyone was like, this is the fucking strongest man in the world. It's like, okay, so in his prime, that was Roger's level or whatever, and it was only a tie? That's insane, right? But, you know, things change. Yeah, Eric, the only characters that I would have confidently above Roger at this point, Joy Boy Emu, and then I think Loki. Loki even then is questionable, right? Because with Loki, if we're hard overrating Harold, but I don't think that's possible just because everything we saw. I don't know. All right. Growth Stonks, thanks for the 10. Loki is the Skyfish Starfish model, Nidhogg. Chapter 237, we were told Skyfish have bird-like feathers, and volume 111, the author's note hints that Loki is both a bird and a fish. Even his tattoos hint his fruit like Kaido. Skyfish. Okay, so here let's start putting some options. Julian Reed, thanks for the 2. On top of all this, Loki still has special eyes. I don't know if his eyes are magic though, you know, like, or if he's just supposed to be ugly, you know, because he's canonically like hideous or whatever, right? So I don't know about that part. Let's start listing some of these options. Let's get Streamlabs up to 100 real quick, because we're almost there. Kinda. Here we go. All right. Here we go. So these are the previously, I pasted these from the chat. These are from, so Brandon E6146 came up with some of these ideas. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at what he was putting out there, because this is a very thorough look at Norse mythology. Hold on. So one thing that makes me skeptical, so here's the tricky thing. How do I say this? So, I'm always skeptical when people introduce a lot of, what do you call, mythology that's completely new to me. And explain, like, I should label this. Here's a bunch of reasons why. Like, we're trying to figure out something mythology-wise, right? And then somebody we're trying to make theories for the story, right? And then somebody comes through and says, like, Morch, here is this mythological being, and here is the myth or legend around this or whatever. And therefore we can use this to predict the plot of One Piece, right? And they might explain something that fits really, really well, right? But then, because I'm getting it secondhand, so I'm being told that this is what the myth is, then it sounds really, really good on paper. But lots of times, what's actually happening is people are taking something that vaguely fits mythology-wise, like really, really vaguely, and then they cut and trim parts of it, or really focus some things down to then explain, like, why this is the why, like, how do I say this? This is something I only realized once Hindu mythology was invoked, and I think this was during a period of time. It was in Wano, and people were trying to figure out some stuff about the Goma Goma no Mi and its actual name and stuff like that, right? So lots of times people will, like, let's say there's something happening in One Piece or something that we want solved, right? And then there's this myth that has like a million details or whatever. Like there's a myth where a lot of things happen, right? And then somebody will come and be like, hey, Morge, here's this myth. And then they explain the myth, and it sounds like it perfectly fits what's happening in One Piece right now. But then if you're actually familiar with the myth itself, then you realize that, oh, this person actually omitted a bunch of information and focused on some really minor stuff that isn't really important to the myth, and then just translated that over to One Piece. So an example is like the story of Hanuman. So I remember there was like theories about the Goma Goma, like Luffy actually having the Hanuman fruit or something like that. And in this case, I saw people who were not familiar with Hindu mythology, like pulling some things from Hanuman's myth that technically happened, but are such minor details that anyone familiar with Hindu mythology would never think that that's an accurate sort of, like, that's not the main points of the stories of Hanuman or whatever, right? But if you like really pick and choose and like only take like really small bits of information, then it sounds like it fits what's happening in One Piece. So I guess it's a difficult, like it's a long-winded way of me saying that basically like unless I actually know these myths in detail, it is going to be difficult for me to parse through how accurate some of the stuff is. Not because people are going to tell me things that are incorrect, but because unless you're familiar with the myth itself, you cannot know whether or not the things that people are sharing are like actually important, significant aspects of the myth, or if it's just like a really, really, really like small part of it that people are then latching onto and then blowing it out of proportion. Does that make sense? Like, I guess I feel like that doesn't make sense based on what I'm explaining right here. So like, how about let me give like a little example, right? So like, let's pretend that we just didn't know anything about. Let's pretend that we as a collective did not know anything about Zeus, right? Let's pretend we didn't know anything about Zeus, okay? And somebody was trying to like let's pretend there's a character in the One Piece world who has an ability that allows him to take on lots of transformations or something, and he likes to get around, like he likes to have lots of sex or something, right? And then somebody came to me and was like, Morge, there's this mythological being that might fit what's happening in One Piece right now. This character might have the Zeus fruit, because this character, his main ability is he does lots of transformations, and his personality is like he likes to sleep around a lot. So like, I think Oda's alluding to the myth of Zeus, and this character must have the Zeus fruit because that's his thing, like Zeus transforms a lot or whatever. And I would believe that because this person's sharing technically a bunch of accurate information. There's this god, Greek god, that transforms a lot, and he sleeps with lots of women and stuff like that, right? So I'm like, oh, Oda must be drawing inspiration for this. But if I actually knew the story of Zeus or whatever, then you would know that what Zeus is actually really known for is fucking lightning and being the king of the gods and the god of thunder and everything like that. Like, that's the big thing. It would make no fucking sense for Oda to come up with a Zeus fruit where the ability is based around transformations and has nothing to do with lightning, right? Does that make sense? So sometimes, like, somebody can be sharing technically accurate information about a myth, but really reaching with what level of detail they're pulling to try to make a square peg fit a round hole. I don't know if that analogy made some sense, but that's what I'm trying to get across here. So that was something I noticed with like the Hanuman theories back when people were coming up with that. It's like, no, you wouldn't say this if you knew Hanuman's story in mythology. It's like, technically this is like a thing, but nobody thinks of that when they think about Hanuman, you know? So that's what I'm trying to explain here. Crow Stray got thanks for 2. I'll laugh if Loki just has like a Cyclops fruit. Yeah, something really, really simple. Okay, so let me list some options, Let me list some options. Okay. Options. So I think Jormungandr, we'll just put it down. We're going to put down options just to put them down, right? Jormungandr, Fenrir. These are things we know of, right? Nidhogg. Those are some good options. Things that we know about Loki, right? Things we know about Loki's fruit. Can fly. Like, I think we're in agreement that the lightning powers are likely not the fruit itself, right? Can fly. Travels on all fours. Or let's say walks on all fours. What else do we see here? What else do we see? Sharp claws. Right? Sharp claws. World-ending power. You have fangs. Okay, this is the only silhouette we get, right? So the things we get confirmed, sharp claws. I want to say a curved neck. Is that fair to put down? But I can't really accurately make out anything else. Curved / long neck. And then let me add some things. Things we can speculate. Likely Norse mythology. Likely a beast. I think those things seem accurate. I guess if we can add this, likely doesn't have lightning powers, because it is a good point, right? So like, why would Oda double down on the lightning powers? Loki's a centaur, chimera, mythical Zoan, but is that like a world-ending fruit? I thought it was supposed to be a made-up deity fruit that he mistook for Nika. So here's my personal guess. If I were to say, I feel like, okay, because Ragnar, that's the name of the hammer. Right? I feel like it's not going to be. Let me look at the squirrel. Like, let's look at what Ratatoskr can do. Right? My feeling is that Oda is going to be taking some creative liberties here and making up some shit for these what do you call it? For these creatures, because Oda does that. If you look at like some of the Gorosei's mythical, like the Gorosei's yokai that Oda used, right? They don't match the abilities one to one of the yokai from, like, it's kind of what Oda wanted them to be. So the squirrel, right, as far as I know, doesn't have all these crazy powers. And it's not even that well known. Yeah, it carries messages. Like, look at it. Its Wikipedia article is fucking tiny. It's kind of crazy that Oda chose this as the representation of, like, the source of all the hammer's powers. Like, the Oda chose this mythical creature and just decided that his version in One Piece is gonna be fucking broken, like crazy, crazy powerful, and it's gonna have all the weather abilities. And yeah. Yeah, so the thing about the dark version of Nika is that, here, I'll throw out some other options, right? So, dark / destroyer Nika. I think God Elbath. I think that's something that the Giants used to talk about back in Little Garden. So now let's look at some of these other Norse options, right? So I like this breakdown. I like this breakdown. Um, Here, let's trim it a little bit. Yeah, but the Jormungandr seems unlikely. You know what? I like the breakdown being here. Things we know, things we can speculate. I agree Jormungandr seems unlikely because it can fly, right? Pros hyped as World Serpent has been hyped as very powerful from Little Garden. Cons seems unlikely because it can't fly. I would add Loki already has serpent eyes. The cons, unless Loki can fly because of the squirrel fruit, what else are the cons for Jormungandr? And it just doesn't seem like. I guess the curved neck is arguably a pro. Yeah, it just seems like it's traveling on four legs here, right? It seems like it's traveling on four legs. So let me add that to cons. But seems to have four legs. Um, Seems to have curved neck. Okay. So Fenrir, I think, is a good chance. I think Fenrir is a good chance, right? How do we feel about Fenrir? Um, um, Loki introduced in Cold Realm. Friend was a wolf. Loki is a lone wolf type. Clearly seems like a beast on all fours. I don't think there's really cons to Fenrir, right? Pros. Cons. None. Fenrir not necessarily world ending in mythology, I think, but to be fair, Oda clearly taking liberties with Ratatoskr power anyway. So I think that's something to consider. Meek, thanks for the 5. Mythical Zoan, human fruit, model Loki from Norse mythology. Loki in real life is a frost giant, plus can shapeshift, plus is funny. No chance this is right. I'm not going to put that down. It just doesn't feel correct to me, but I think that's interesting. Loki's fruit is gigantic. He was easily dwarfing Harold and the castle. But I feel like because he's like people always get bigger when they turn into their Zoan form, so I don't know if that's because Loki like put it this way, if Loki ate a tiger fruit, then when he went into his Zoan form, would he be a giant sized tiger? Or would he shrink to a normal sized tiger? Does that make sense? Yeah, I guess that's the big con. Fenrir can't. Okay. Uh, okay. Fenrir can't fly, but maybe Ragnar is the source of flight. See, the problem is that Ragnar could be the source of flight as well because so far there doesn't seem to be, it does so many things, right? So for all we know, Ragnar can control the wind to allow him to fly, right? Um, Cons, we just got a mythical dog fruit and Wano. If anything, that might add to the possibilities. Fenrir is world ending in lore. Is Fenrir world ending? Okay, Fenrir. Let's see what the lore is. Fenrir was chained up until the end of the world and ate Odin. Interesting. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah. See, I don't know about Garm or Sleipnir. Here. How about we look at a little guide? Do we have a guide for some Norse stuff? I'm interested in Garm, Sleipnir. Okay, Nidhogg, the con. We'll take a look at a guide in a second, but let me just get some other thoughts out. Pros on Nidhogg. Uh, Neck. Very powerful in mythology. Already seemed like the biggest slash baddest of the killing him fears that was created. Uh, Explains flight, but also the curved uh, slash long neck, and also the traveling on running on four legs. Um, I think this. Why is this doing this? What the hell? I think the cons are simple. Ragnar already has lightning. So what's the point? Um, Note Oda's version. Uh, Elbaf's. Uh, Oda isn't taking creative liberty with Nidhogg either, since Elbaf citizens confirm that in their culture, Nidhogg is still a lightning dragon. Okay, so I'm interested in Garm, Sleipnir, and then we had some other options, right? So let's take a look at what is this again? Fafnir. Fafnir. I'm gonna ignore if Tekking's got this right, then that's amazing. I'm gonna ignore this. I guess I should look. I should look. Wind. Hmm. It's an eagle. Oh, interesting. So it's tied to the That's very interesting. Why does it say Nidhogger is a worm? man. No, yeah, Nidhogg maybe. This is so hard because there's so many things that seem like they could fit, but then don't seem like they quite fit. Right? So let's take a look again over here. So like 1143. Here's some of the things that they came up with, right? So they came up with oh, it's 1142, my bad. 1142. Yeah. So the things that they fear, do we have a clue here? Where's they list all the shit. Where's the stuff that they list? Okay, the Loki has a huge hammer and he destroys the world. No, he doesn't. The one who destroys the world is Nika. No, look, Loki is scarier. This person argues that the scariest is Fenrir, so maybe Fenrir is the answer. I say no ghosts, no no storms. This is a good shot. I wonder if it is just Fenrir. Maybe it is just Fenrir. Maybe it's simple. Worm is the English word for dragon. The old English word for dragon. Makes sense. I've seen that before in like high fantasy books and stuff like that. But then, like you wrote it down, WYRM is the spelling that I see. So this one was spelled WORM, which is not usual when it's referring to it in that sense, like the dragon sense. Okay. So I'd say Nidhogg is still on the table, actually. I just don't know about this fucking bird thing. But it is tied to the squirrel. Squirrel who should run on the old tree from above the words of the eagle he bears. I feel like Nidhogg is a better shot then. I feel like Nidhogg is a better shot. I'm warming up to Nidhogg and Fenrir. Let me take a look at Fafnir. What? Who shifted in the hammer? What? Okay, it's using old speak. Okay. I got excited by the word hammer. Ah, interesting. Commits patricide out of greed. Ooh, shapeshift. Oh, this is some good shit. All right. I'm liking this. He kills his father, takes his hoard of treasure. Flees in the hoard. Oh, dwells in the wilderness. Oh, this is good shit. Yeah, I like this. My guess is that whatever Loki's gonna be, let's say number one. Let's assume that Loki, if Loki is a Norse, based off of a Norse mythology type thing, then my guess is that it's gonna be Oda combining a lot of concepts, right? Because Ragnar, the whole concept of Ragnar is a bunch of stuff Oda's throwing together, right? Loki in general, like, let's be clear, the character Loki, period, the character Loki, he himself is a mix of two Norse gods, right? He's called Loki, but his entire design is Thor. And Oda mixed the two concepts because he's just like, well, he's Loki in the sense that he's like, he's mischievous. He's sort of an outcast from the rest of the giants, or from the rest of Elbaf in a way. He association with the idea of frost. He's like this mischievous trickster. He does pranks and all of that stuff. So that's Loki on one end, right? And he's introduced with his tongue out, yada yada. So it's the Loki elements there. But then it's also all the Thor elements in that Loki is actually genuinely a really, really strong warrior that fights with this hammer that controls storms and everything like that. And he's got warrior's pride, yada yada, more of a classic Viking feel. So Oda just mashed those two concepts together to create this unique character for One Piece. The character is called Loki, but the concept Oda came up with for him is a mixing two Norse mythology concepts, Loki and Thor, into one character, right? So in a similar vein, the squirrel that we've got, right, Ratatoskr, the squirrel is really a lot of concepts in one, right? Because clearly it's pulling from the Ratatoskr idea, right? But then at the same time, mixing that in with the Mjolnir idea of being a hammer, right? And then mixing in a bunch of elemental aspects, right? Because Ratatoskr, as far as we know in mythology, didn't have all these elemental abilities. So in that sense, it seems like Oda's just mixing together a bunch of Norse-inspired ideas for what Ragnar is, right? So it's not just Ratatoskr, right? It's Oda's spin. He's mishmashing stuff together. So the tricky thing with what we're looking for here is that my guess is that there's not going to be a simple perfect fit, because let's say it's Fenrir. Let's say Fenrir is the answer. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Oda's version of Fenrir, which is just mixing together some other ideas. Like if it's Fenrir but mixed with some concepts taken from Nidhogg, some concepts maybe even taken from Surtur or something like that. Does that make sense? But this Fafnir thing seems to be like a really nice fit so far. Look Fafnir images. Let's take a look at some Fafnir images. Oh, wait. This doesn't help. It does have a long neck. This is an ugly dragon. That's crazy. That's interesting. Okay. This seems like a more classical version of a dragon. Damn, this is cool though. I wonder why this fruit is so powerful that it can end the world and stuff though. Because Norse dragon of treasure, slain by Sigurd. Because it's like Kaido has a dragon fruit, and that's considered a strong fruit, but it's not like anybody talks about it like, oh, this is like a world-changing fruit, But this one seemed to be key to defeating Emu. Bawa2929, thank you for the 20. Check out chapter 40 with Usopp, Kai, and the kids. Parallels Loki and everyone in the castle in 1171. Usopp and Loki have lots of similarities in their lives as coping mechanisms and having lots of respect for their village and country. I could definitely believe that. Definitely believe that. Let's see. Well, I'll open up another one. Oh, this has the shitty translations. Hold on. I'm just going to do... Viz translations are really bad pre-time skip. Like, terribly, terribly bad. Can we keep this a secret? Everything that... Oh, man, what a good scene. What a good call. Great call. Everybody look at this. Identical to the Loki scenario. Love this. Can we keep this a secret, everything that happened here? Ooh, I like this. Everyone will love you. You'll be the village hero. That is... Oh, my God. That is actually such a good call. That's a great call out. This is a... Hey, everyone, shouts to Bawa2929. This is identical. It fits their pasts so well in that, like, both Loki and Usopp grew up for different reasons being treated as outcasts in the village. They both lied and did pranks and caused mischief because it fills a certain hole for them and everything. And then finally, when they get to actually play the role of being a hero, right? Like here, Usopp's actually being a hero and saving the village. And he's finally doing something like genuinely heroic that he doesn't have to lie about to make himself look good. For the first time, he's saying that now that I can finally tell the truth proudly, I'm not gonna, right? I like that a lot here for Usopp, obviously. But then Loki, similarly, like he finally did something where he would be welcomed by the people of Elbaf as their hero, crowned the king, yada yada. and he's sacrificing that because he's doing the right thing. I love this. Great call. Identical scene. Usopp, they should know what you did. I agree. Who'd believe the town liar saved the day? Anyway, yeah. That's cool. I love that. Nothing happened. This was the original Nothing Happened. Oh my god. Time out. I wish I had... What the fuck? Oh man, we give Zoro so much credit for that whole thing, but this was the original... Oh my god. Is anyone reading this? What? The original Nothing Happened was by Usopp. And a lot of people are like, Zoro's Luffy's most loyal crewmate, yada yada. No, the first Straw Hat that said Luffy is the man who's going to become Pirate King was Usopp. Zoro said it second in Thriller Bark, but Usopp said it first in Alabasta. Oh, shit. Man, poor Usopp. Usopp's a phenomenal character. Damn. This is a great Nothing Happened. And it means so much when you consider Usopp's entire past and how he's treated by the village. This is a lot. This is awesome. Damn, Zoro has the second best Nothing Happened in the series. That's crazy. Oh, wow. Great call. Yeah. I love this. Man, imagine if after all this Loki dies and Ragnar does choose Usopp. That'd be crazy. Meek says, Meek, thanks for the 2. Usopp is Loki if Usopp was brave and strong. Shit, that's a good point. That's a very good point. Let's get Streamlights up to 100 real quick. That's another thing. So if we just go down the list of... If we go down the list of what happens if Loki is added to the crew, right? It's trouble for so many characters. That was the... I knew there was one more thing I was forgetting. But if Loki joins the crew, just one, Zoro and Sanji spots are taken. They're taken by Loki and Ragnar respectively. Spots 2 and 3 filled out. Luffy's got 2 new wings, right? Chopper, his role as a mascot is taken as well by Ragnar. So that's gone, right? And then I think Usopp's role is Luffy's best friend that he likes hanging out with the most. I think Luffy and Loki get along like 2 peas in a pod. I think Loki is the most Luffy-esque character that Luffy's ever met. I mean, just look at these two. Just hanging out. Loki calling Luffy by the wrong name, just like Luffy calls people by the wrong name. Loki just endangers too much. He can't join. Can't join. Can't join. And again, I think it was said that Elbaf giants are good at navigation. So Nami's in trouble. Obviously, Loki's not as good at navigation as Nami. But Loki would be a better number 2 than Zoro in terms of strength. Loki's hammer would be a better number 3 than Sanji in terms of strength. Ragnar is an infinitely better mascot than Chopper. Chopper can finally go back to being a respectable, normal character, so I guess that's a bonus. I think Luffy and Loki get on pretty well. Maybe better than Luffy and Usopp if he stays around. Anyway. Zoro called Luffy Pirate King Baratier. You're right. I'd retract that. I retract that. Zoro is still the first person to call Luffy Pirate King. You are right. You are correct. You are correct. I apologize. Usopp gets the Nothing Happened. Zoro keeps the other part of it. My bad, my bad. Big mistake on my end. Anime Dimension. Thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 38 months, man. Part 1. When Loki used the hammer, thunder struck the tree. At that time, he was still cuffed and could not use the Devil Fruits. This suggests he doesn't have the Nidhogg Fruit, and thunder came from his hammer itself. I agree. I agree. Part 2. In current chapter, Loki has only now been uncuffed, and he says, Ragnar, show your power. Ragnar appears similar to Thor's weapon, as it requires worthiness and possesses thunder-based powers. I agree. I agree. I think Oda just made up the powers of Ratatoskr to fit what he needs for the story. Which is totally fair. Nika's not even a real god in the first place. So Oda can say that the Zoans can do whatever he wants them to do. I want to look into. So Fafnir is an interesting. He's a very interesting possibility here. I want to add in Fafnir. Story fits to a T. Patricide. Uh, Snake. Killing father in the legend. Serpent like neck. Would explain flight. Cons. A little bit more obscure of a pick. None of the kids mention it in 1142. Maybe that's a no. I don't know if that's a pro or not. I'll keep it as a con. Doesn't. Yeah. What's Fafnir? Okay, so Fafnir. What does it do again? He kills. Yeah. I think kills his father to get treasure. None of the kids mentioned 1142. That's all I can really think of. Doesn't seem to be super powerful, but Oda can make up whatever suits the story. I should add this to Nidhogg. I wonder why Oda declared Nidhogg to be a lightning dragon. Because it doesn't seem to be the case in real mythology. Oh, Oda is taking. Okay. I messed this up. Oda establishes. But why did he make Nidhogg a lightning dragon? Like, I'm not wrong on that, right? It seems like Nidhogg is not a lightning dragon in outside of One Piece. So now let's look at Garm and Sleipnir. Also, let's get stream likes up to 100 real quick. Dark Dragon X7, thanks for the 5. It's going to be interesting to see Usopp and Loki interact. I hope they do. Yeah, the parallels are really strong there. The parallel is very, very strong. I like that a lot. The scene is damn near identical. Love that. Love that find by Bawa. Thank you very much. Growth Stonks, thanks for the 5. Ragnar and Loki, Devil Fruit, likely the Nidhogg come in pair, which is where the lightning myth comes from. Ragnar's always used test for the fruit. I think it's possible. Yeah, like maybe it's even more powerful lightning or something like that. Maybe. That is, to me it feels redundant, but maybe to Oda it's just like, I like it like this. I don't know. So if we talk about the other options, right? Dark Destroy version of Nika. So pros fits the end of the world idea and being one of two fruits essential to defeating Emu. And then on top of that, Loki calls himself the sun god. Parallels Luffy the best. Cons, Loki clearly takes on a beast shape, and all descriptions of Nika have him as a humanoid warrior with white hair, clothes, etc. That's a pretty big con. That's like almost completely disqualifying. Oh shit. God Elbaf. Pros was hyped as Elbaf's actual most important god back in Little Garden. Seems to be fittingly powerful to the hype around Loki's fruit. Cons, literally never heard of it again since Little Garden. Would it even make sense to be a beast figure like we saw? Yeah, I don't know. Oh, this is actually bothering me. What the hell? All right. Why is this not in line? You know what? What the fuck? Oh my god. Okay. Stay. All right, cool. All right, we're going to take a look at a couple more options here. Tiptio, good to see you, man. Thanks for the 5. What are the chances that Loki's Devil Fruit is better / stronger than Emu's Devil Fruit? Which is hard to imagine, but these are the only other legendary zones. I don't think it can be stronger than Emu's zone. I don't think that's doable. I just don't believe. Emu's zone seems ridiculous. Like, it can do so much, you know? I just don't think it's possible. Fenrir doesn't have a serpent-like neck. You're right, that's a big no. Big problem is Fenrir doesn't have serpent-like neck. Now the flip side is that we might be interpreting this visual panel, not this panel, this panel visually incorrectly. That's a possibility. You never know with Oda's silhouettes. I think I put in. Yeah, I put a question. That's why I put a question mark initially here. Curved / long neck. That's what it appears to be like, but you never know. Garm and Sleipnir. Let's take a look at Garm and Sleipnir. Oh, it's another dog. It's another dog thing. Okay. Chained, often depicted chained. A major figure. What the fuck? How come no one was talking about this? This is a big deal. This fits a lot of things. Garm is the fearsome, bloodstained hound or wolf that guards the gates of hell, the Norse underworld, often depicted chained at Gnipa Cave. A major figure in prophecy, he breaks free during Ragnarok. Yeah, that fits. Howling wildly, fights the god Tyr. We don't know who that is. With both finding death in their fatal encounter, symbolizing chaos at the world's end. Okay, that makes sense. He's considered the ultimate canine in Norse mythology. Norse cosmology. The ultimate canine, so ranks above Fenrir, it sounds like. Comparable to Odin among gods and Yggdrasil among trees. Key aspects of Garm. His howling signals the beast. This would be symbolic. So, what's the deal with Tyr? What do we know about Tyr? Damn, I think that this is a pretty good fit, but obviously this is just AI, right? So, I need some more details. This dude Tyr be getting fucked up by wolves left and right. Most famously losing his hand to the monstrous wolf Fenrir to allow the gods to bind him. He was the original sky god and ruler before Odin? So is he like... Losing his hand is also reminiscent of Shanks, and we know the Shanks and Loki situation. Shanks has Tyr imagery. Oh my god. Oh no. It's all coming together. Because of the arm thing. That doesn't look like Shanks. Damn, that's what they depicted a god like? That's kind of lame. Alright. Not seeing any red hair. Does Shanks have Tyr imagery? None of this stuff seems Shanks-esque to me. But the arm. I see with the arm symbolism. Okay, cool. I'm liking Garm as a pick. Garm versus Fenrir in Norse mythology. While Fenrir is Loki's giant wolf son. Okay, it seems similar. I wouldn't be surprised if Oda just merges some of these roles. So Fenrir eats Odin. That's crazy. I didn't realize Fenrir is that powerful. So Odin loses to a dog? They're basically a giant wolf? Garm is tied to Hel. Fenrir is Loki's son. Garm fights Tyr. Fenrir fights Odin. They have very similar situations. Okay, I see. So maybe I'm getting ahead of myself with the whole Garm thing. Garm is sometimes called a wolf like Fenrir in some poems. I guess they just liked wolves in Norse mythology a lot. Okay, I'm just gonna put in Garm slash Fenrir. Because I feel like it's just splitting hairs at that point, right? Further pros considering the Garm similarity, the Garm potential. Chained up, released at Ragnarok. Both are god killers. Yeah. Released at Ragnarok. Symbolic of start of Ragnarok. There's some good shit there. Okay. It's really the neck that is the problem now, right? It's really the neck. Because the neck, if we're seeing that correctly, it just doesn't fit, right? Okay, then finally we got Sleipnir. Tiptio, thanks for the 2. Look in the 11th page of 1170 for Loki's beast mode. I mean, we've seen it. We've been looking at it. I can count down for you. But hold on. It's page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10. Yeah, we've been looking at this page. So we see this. And agreed, it doesn't look the most like a wolf. Thanks to 2. Garm feels like the Wano Monkey King Devil Fruit theory. Yeah, look, here's the thing. If I had to bet max money, right? Then my guess would be it's something that's not really a real world thing. It's just something that Oda made up for One Piece. Now, like similar to Nika. Now, the catch with Nika is that at the very least, before Oda revealed that Luffy had just awakened as Nika in chapter what 1043, 1044, 1044. Yeah, 1044 Luffy awakens as Nika. 1043 the cliffhanger he does, but 1044 Luffy awakens. If Oda hadn't Oda had to introduce the name Nika beforehand, right? Like he did it last minute, literally while the fight was happening. So you can, you know, you could say that he cut it really close, but the name Nika was something Oda had already mentioned, right? So when Luffy was revealed to have the Nika form, it was like, okay, cool. It's something that Oda just established for us, right? With Loki, if Oda does a made up mythical deity, like a One Piece specific deity, then it's going to feel a little bit weirder because that's one that Oda's just never mentioned before, right? Like there's nothing else. The only gods that I can think of off the top of my head in One Piece that that Oda has established beforehand, right? There's the god Elbaf that they mention in Little Garden. There's the serpent, the great serpent soaked in blood that they also mention in Little Garden. So lots coming from Little Garden. And then after that, it's just Nika that is introduced last minute in Wano, right? You could argue that in Skypiea, they introduced a shit ton because they're like the sun god, rain god, whatever, earth god. But we never get any of their names, right? So in terms of exact names, it's really just Nika and God Elbaf. So if Oda wants to make up something for One Piece right here, it will feel very out of the blue for Loki, whatever it is, right? So that's why we're kind of looking at these pre-existing options, but I wouldn't be surprised if Oda doesn't go with a existing Norse being and instead just goes with I guess here's how I'd put it, right? My guess, we should look at Sleipnir before I get any further, but my guess is basically I think there's three options, okay? I think one is Oda just pulls something straight from Norse mythology. So it literally is like the Fenrir or the Garm fruit or the Jormungandr or the Nidhogg fruit, right? So one is Oda just pulls something straight and yeah, it's just that is what it is, right? Two is Oda does a fruit that's an amalgamation of some Norse ideas, kind of like what Ragnar is, right? Ragnar is a mix of ideas because Ratatoskr in Norse mythology is nothing like he doesn't command all of the elements or all of the realms or anything. It's just a squirrel, right? That travels up and down the tree, right? So that's option number two. Oda will do something that's like just a mix of some of these ideas, and it's something that we've never really seen before, right? Number three is Oda pulls something that's brand new, like truly brand new, like a made up One Piece deity, like Nika, like a totally made up One Piece deity, and then we just can't predict that, right? I don't think I would love that because unlike with Nika, in this case, Oda hasn't even there's nothing else hinting at a god to include right here, right? So, and I guess option four would just be alternate version of the Nika fruit, which I've always thought would be really cool because it fits all of the lore that we have of Nika, which is there's different visions that different groups of people have of Nika, but it doesn't fit the visuals, right? So it just visually doesn't work, right? So let's take a look at what Sleipnir is. Oh my god. The fuck? Sleipnir is Odin's magical 8-legged horse. Okay. Born from Loki's shape-shifting. Okay. I mean, Loki, there was that was one of the most random fucking things where when Loki was born, there was that random 8-legged horse that called Ashra for whatever reason. That's the thing, like Oda likes to blend ideas. So there was the horse that fucking we already had in Loki's backstory that died. It was really random. Okay. The giant builder contracted to fortify Asgard demanded the sun, moon, and goddess Freya as payment. Okay. So Loki in mythology, this is a big point. Loki transforms into. Oh my god. What the fuck? Time out, 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 time out. Are you guys reading this shit? Alright. That's a weird. Okay. Okay, hold on here. So, man, read. Why does Google phrase it like this? Loki's trick. Okay, so there's some fucking wall or some shit that's being built. Cool. So they're fortifying Asgard or whatever. Loki plays a clever trick here. Get a load of Loki's master scheme. So Loki, clever, clever. Loki, a shapeshifter, he's like, well, what if I just trick the giant's horse to follow me away, right? so, so Loki, of course, turns into an attractive female horse to lure away the giant stallion and draw them away so that the wall can't be completed. Now, I personally believe that there may have been a flaw in Loki's plan because Google just tries to slip this in. Loki, in horse form, later becomes pregnant by the giant's horse. Meaning that this little ruse that Loki played wasn't so much a quick little ruse, so much as like an entire 9-month pregnancy and breeding that he signed up for. This is fucking insane. So Loki, at what point, what happens in between this point and this point? Because it's like Loki has successfully lured away the giant stallion, and what's going through Loki's head after this? Is he like, oh no, I've gone too far? What's happening to me now? I didn't want this? Like, what is happening in this situation? Why doesn't he turn back into a person? Why does he just stay in horse form? Is he like, oh, there's like a win-win scenario? 1, I get to stop the wall's completion, and 2, I get to get fucked by this giant horse? Or was this a rape that happened to Loki in horse form? Because this is 2 wildly different scenarios. I feel like, why doesn't the myth expand upon the most interesting... Let's get into this. So, are you guys following this? This is fucking insane. I don't want this guy on the crew anymore. Says Pinot Park. Listen, this isn't this isn't One Piece Loki. This is like Norse Loki. Very different character. Our Loki is no horse fucker, as far as we know. Okay, so what's the... Oh, in chapter 42, the origins are explained. Okay, blah blah blah. Some restrictions on the builder that he may have help from due to Loki's influence. Blah blah blah. Okay, the gods convene. Okay. Oh, if he could not find a scheme. What the fuck? Okay, so this is all over like some building payment problem or something. Okay, he would devise a scheme to cause the builder to forfeit the payment. Okay. Okay, damn. So this horse was fucking ready to go. This horse was rearing to go. The mayor ran into the wood. The builder chased afterwards. Okay, so it seems like the plan succeeds here. Oh my god. Even the Wikipedia, like even the actual people recounting the myth, they don't want to delve into the details. Loki had such dealings that somewhat later gave birth. The fuck is this shit? Why are they They had like 5 paragraphs on the fucking payment situation. What the fuck are they talking? What happened here? The 2 horses ran around all night? No, not all night. Not the entire night. They stopped at one point. Loki had such. I feel this is bizarre. Why are they not trying to get to the bottom of this part? Yes, in Norse mythology. Why is it phrased like this? This is in Norse mythology. Loki shapeshifted into a beautiful mare, mated with a stallion, became pregnant, and then gave birth to an eight-legged horse, as part of a mischievous plan to stop a giant from building Asgard's wall. What a fucking mischievous plan! Loki, that trickster, out getting horse fucked again. And I feel like that's not even the craziest part. Like the craziest part is he carried this horse to term. I don't know what the ancient Norse philosophy was on, I guess, abortion rights and all of that, but none of this story makes sense. I feel like this is. I wonder how much of this Oda will include in the story. Okay, let's. I don't get it though. Like, just how much of it was consensual? Because, like, at like 9 months later, are all the giants like, "Hey Loki, thanks for solving that giant situation with all the payments and stuff," and Loki's like on the bed giving birth to an eight-legged horse and is just like, "No problem, guys." Took care of it. Also, I'm naming this horse Sleipnir. I thought of a name. All right. Anyway, let's get into Sleipnir. The fuck is this? All right. Yeah, it's just a prank, bro. That's the thing. Like, why is this continues? Is this what like Norse myths are like? Because Loki is described as quite the trickster in Norse mythology. Is this what his tricks were? Going around getting fucked by giant animals and then giving birth to monstrosities? I don't fully understand. All right. Let me get back into the Sleipnir situation. Enough joshing around. Let's get serious. Loki and a horse. It's an eight-legged horse. Okay, can fly and shit. This is important. Okay, yeah, I don't really know what to... Okay. I'm gonna stop harping on this after this, but I just find it crazy that, like, all the sources that we see... To be fair, we haven't done that much digging, but I just find it funny that, like, everything that we see always uses very passive language for the description of this part of the myth. Loki transformed into a mare, lured the horse away, and it's like resulting in his own pregnancy and the birth of Sleipnir. Like, oh, that's just something that happened as a result of this. Like, no need to get into the details of how such an event could have occurred, or the sequence of events, right? Resulting in his own pregnancy. Like, why doesn't it just say Loki transformed into a horse, lured the male horse away, Loki gets fucked by this horse, and then Loki is then pregnant and carries this horse sperm to term and gives birth to a giant eight-legged horse? Why doesn't it give the details? Why is it so passive? It's like it's trying to hide. It's like the Norse people are trying to hide their proud culture for no reason whatsoever. These are the stories that they came up with. Why hide them? Let the people know. Let the people know your rich history. It's similar. There's Greek myths about this stuff too, because Zeus gets up to all sorts of wacky stuff as well. As far as I know, Zeus never gets fucked by a horse or an animal himself. From what I recall, it's usually more stuff like Zeus is up in the clouds, he sees some woman that he covets, and I think it's pretty much always a woman, not like an animal. And then he's like, I know what will get this woman to fall for me. Keep in mind, Zeus could transform into like, just a handsome mortal or something like that, a handsome mortal man, and then, go and approach the woman. But from what I recall, most of Zeus's stories are like, I want to get with this woman. I know what to do. Let me transform into like a goat. And then he shows up as a goat, and then he gets to have sex with this woman. That's usually how the stories go. It doesn't really always make sense why Zeus transforms into the thing that he transforms into. Because it's like, why don't you just turn into like a male model? He's like, no. What'll do it in this situation is if I'm like a cow. That's what I think she's into. And what do you know? Whatever, like Atlanta or whatever. She turns out she's into cows, or she's into livestock or whatever. Miss Supers, let's get into it. I had to cover a situation. I'm sorry. I had to give my full attention to Loki's tale. We had to address all of the details that went on there. Anyway, let's get stream likes up to 150 real quick. All right. All right. Growth Stonks, thanks for the 10. Last thing, Morge. Nidhogg is said to be trapped at the bottom of the Yggdrasil in Niflheim. When freed, ends the world. Ratatoskr also sends messages between Nidhogg, and an eagle is Shanks with Griffin. Okay. I do think... Okay. Nidhogg, also associated with the end of the world. Let's add that in. Bottom of Yggdrasil. That is very useful. Tied to part of start of Ragnarok as well. Here's the biggest thing that I'm picking up from all of this, which is... Here's the problem, I guess you could say. So, Jormungandr, Fenrir, and Garm, and Nidhogg, what they all have in common is that they all seem to be tied to the start of Ragnarok. Like, there's a lot of similarities I feel like I'm seeing, like, oh, the Fenrir, when this he does this at the start of Ragnarok, or like, Garm, that's symbolic of the start of Ragnarok or whatever. Jormungandr, when the world serpent fights Thor and all of that stuff. Nidhogg, apparently also tied to the start of Ragnarok. I get that Ragnarok is where everything launches in, like, it's the big final finale of Norse mythology in general. Also, this is a side note, I think it's cool that Norse mythology has, like, they already have, I don't think I've seen this in other mythologies, they already have their end planned out in the story, which is, you don't really see that, right? Like, it's kind of like, here's the things that have happened so far in mythology, and then Norse mythology is like, yeah, but here's the story of how the whole thing ends, because that's like the most exciting part. Other mythologies have like concepts like, the rapture will happen, or like Shiva will do this or that at the end of the world, but it's always like, these are the things that will happen. Norse mythology is more like, the ending, we've already scripted the whole thing out. We know who's fighting who, we know all the matchups, and then that dude and that dude are going to fight, and the wolf will win in this situation, but in this fight, it's going to be a tie, and Thor will fight that serpent, and I just think it's kind of cool. Yeah, nearly everything with a name is connected to Ragnarok. Yeah. Nicholas Mufua, thanks for the 5. Hey, Morch, I think you missed my first chat. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on, I'll look back at it. But I think Loki has the Earth God fruit similar to the Sun God, and he kind of talked about, and was kind of talked about in Skypiea. I think that could be cool. I think that's very, very possible. Let me see your previous. I'm sorry about that, Nicholas. I do think one of the rain, like, I can't do 5 on here, but I was thinking, what if Loki ate the Earth God fruit? Like how, okay, so it's the previous thing that you said. I'm sorry I missed that before, Nicholas. Really sorry about that, man. If it is one of those Earth God, Rain God, Forest God fruits, I mean, Forest God could even work because it's tied to the tree and everything. I do think that those are very possible because maybe Oda starts bringing them into play here. Let's take a look real quick at, okay, the mural translations that we have are not good. Because each translator, I have a translation of the mural that is as literal as possible. All the other translations are basically trying to make it more readable rather than going for accuracy, including Viz. So let's just take it with a grain of salt. But here, as a refresher, let's take a look. Okay. Sun God appeared, the Earth God raged, and with its serpent of hellfire shrouded the world in death and darkness. Earth god raged. Oh man. The thing is that a serpent is mentioned so frequently. I'm surprised that we don't have one of those serpent fruits in the story. Maybe it is a serpent. Maybe it's serpent related. The forest god. There's the Skypea gods, and then there's the mural gods, and I feel like there's going to be some level of overlap. The only one Oda's really made a part of the plot is the sun god, of course. Words and You, thanks for being a Pirate King to your member for 38 months, man. Brother Morge, throwing flag on the play that my last two Pirate King questions were skipped. Words and You, what? No, man. I have not seen any Pirate King questions from you. I'm dead serious, and I can show you the post real quick. I can show you the post in a second. Anyway, I'll pull it up. Anyway, Loki's got me hyped, and Loki him jumping up from the underworld is the feat that has me most hyped. Interesting. Words and You, I've definitely not missed that. But there was a mention as well from just some guy with naturally wavy hair that the previous month's Pirate King didn't show up. So I wonder what's going on here. And to Tio Treviso, he usually sends an email. But here, let me show you real quick. I can at least show the most recent one. But please go ahead and the next one you can get in 2 extra questions if that is the case. But I can show you exactly what the recent ones were. Here we go. Posts. Hold on 1 second here. Oh, what the fuck? Oh my god. No, you are here. Why was it skipped twice? What happens is basically all questions are assembled into a document, and then I read off, because it's from Patreon and from YouTube. So you're right. You are on here. I tend to read from the document rather than from the actual posts, because basically we have a virtual assistant. She goes through, she pulls everything from Patreon, everything from YouTube, compiles it onto one document, so we have everything in one place. Well, you said, oh, actually, no, you just posted this, right? Yo, Morgeman, I'm confused. My question was skipped the past 2 months. I see it on the submission right now. So this was 3 days ago. So this was not before I posted the thing. But let's see here. Yeah, I don't see you on here, man. Because this is the post you did 3 days ago, right? So I recorded the Pirate King podcast last week. But if you look here, you're saying, so you see it on the submission right now, but I don't see it on this post. So I'm sorry, I don't see it, man. What I'm gonna do is I can ask. So right now, I could answer both of these here, or because I do appreciate the support, obviously, and like I know that I'm pretty sure you've asked me to watch Andor before. What I can do is I can either answer both of these questions here in the live stream format, or I can answer them both in next month's Pirate King podcast, and then you get basically 3 things. So that's what I can do. I'm sorry about that, but you can see why there is no submission that's showing up from you in the post before. So I don't know what's happening necessarily, but this comment from you is there. So I'm sorry about that, man. So I can do either of those options. You just let me know in chat which one you would prefer. Empty Mind, thanks for being a Pirate King to your member. Oh, wait, no, hold on. Words and You, thanks for being a... Oh, no, we covered this. Hold on. Teptio, thanks for the 5, man. The silhouette you used was from the 13th page. I'm talking about the silhouette of Loki 2 pages before in the panel after Ragnar squeaks. The silhouette you used was from the 13 page. In the panel silhouette of Loki 2 pages before in the panel after Ragnar squeaks. The panel after Ragnar squeaks. Panel after Ragnar squeaks. That was a 13 page? Okay, hold on. Oh, this? Yeah, but again, so I wrote that down in that it does seem to be not bipedal. It seems to run on multiple legs. Tapia says, "Why is my submission disliked?" Hey, that's what I don't do. That I don't look at the posts. That's you. I'll ask. I don't want to say the name of our virtual assistant, but I could ask her. Sorry about that. But I don't do that. I don't go to the submissions. She goes. She collects everything. She does the responses, etc. Unless something's a more complex question, in which case then she sends me the question on Slack, and then I type into Slack, and then she goes and posts. Empty Mind, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 6 months. Do you think 2026 Elbaf will produce a top 5 chapter out of the entire series? Also, how did Loki use the restroom? Do you think Elbaf will produce a top 5 chapter out of the entire series? How did Loki use the restroom? I definitely think so. I mean, you could argue that it's already had some, right? It depends on what you value. I think the mural chapter is really, really good. The mural chapter is great. I think I think maybe something from the Rocks flashback. It depends what you view. Like, I think the all 6 characters fighting Emu is up there. I think there's some really great chapters. I think that is a hybrid snake looking form. That's very possible. That's very, very possible. I'm catching up on supers. I'm just catching up on supers. Hold on. Just making sure I'm not missing anything else. Empty Mind, thanks for being a Pirate King team member for 6 months. Do you think 2020... No, we covered that. I'm sorry. I'm looping things in my brain. Tom, thanks for the 5-man. Maybe Shanks, for whatever reason, needed Loki back on Elbaf. So he told Loki to tell the giants the truth if he doesn't go back, hence a coward. That's actually really funny. Wait, what the fuck? So, like, Shanks was, like, responsible for Loki being tied up for 6 years? That's brutal. That's brutal. What the fuck? Loki's going to do the Nika jump with Mjolnir, and it's going to look like the insane clown posse symbol. I don't know what that means. Yeah, words in you if you're in chat. Do you want to let me know? Do you want me to answer your 2 questions right here, or would you rather me save it for next Pirate King podcast? Yeah, so where we're at right now is basically looking at all the options, right? So to me, what I basically think, what I think is 4 options I personally believe. 1, Oda picks something straight out of mythology. Fenrir. 2, it's an amalgamation, kind of like Ragnar isn't actually, kind of like Ragnar is only loosely based on Ratatoskr. So Oda combines some legends into one. 3, some god unique to One Piece who we've never heard of before. Example, Nika. 4, just a dark version. Just a different version of the Nika fruit. Okay, so right now, the reason I'm looking over there, so what's happening is, I'm very curious. I'm going to ask some questions after stream. So right now what's happening is, on TV, my girlfriend put on One Piece. She is in Jaya. Okay? She's currently cooking. And the scenes just happened of the bar scene. And I'm watching right now as Blackbeard is walking away. So, like, it looks like they just had their interaction between Luffy, Zoranami, and Blackbeard. I'm very curious as to how much her attention was on the TV, because I know I can also hear her cooking and stuff over there. So I'm like, fuck, do I need to go in and be like, hey, maybe rewatch those 2 scenes or what? Like, I'm happy she's watching, but I'm concerned of like, oh shoot. All right, hold on. We're fine. We're fine. Give me a second here. Okay. All right, we're okay. We're okay. All right. Remix Dynasty, thanks for the 2. Hi, Morge, you missed my super. Some things never change. Okay. Hold on. Why am I? What's going on this stream? Let me pull up. Let me pull up the supers tab. Let me make sure I'm not missing anybody's thing. Because it sounds like, probably because I was ranting so much, it seems like I might have missed a few, so I'm really sorry about that. Hold on. Let me pull up. Let's see. Okay, let me just start from the top of the stream, make sure I'm not missing anything. Got this. Got this. Omarua, I'm sorry. Ryuma killed a God's Knight scaring Emu. Explains why world government was scared of Wano. Only times we see Emu shaken was Joyboy Haki and when a God's Knight got killed. I think that's entirely possible. I'm sorry I missed that one. Shit. I'm sorry, Omarua, if you're still here. Growth Stonks, covered that. Tio covered that. Remix King, I'm sorry, man. Hey, Morge, long time no chat. With the increased amount of break weeks, do you think we're still on pace for the end of the series in 2032? And Manga Morge update. No Manga Morge updates, but if depending on the end of Chainsaw Man, I might want to put a video out on that. Good to see you again, Remix King. I hope you're still enjoying Pokemon Adventures. Increased amount of break weeks. I think that we're on pace to end of the series. I do think we're on pace to end the series in 2032, because that was my previous estimate, and it was based on the idea that Oda does like 30-something, like higher-end 30-something chapters per year. So it was already based on that estimate, and I don't think that's changing. I think Oda is still releasing. I think he released a bit more chapters in 2025 than he did 2024, but I might be wrong. Okay, so I think we're good. I'm sorry about that, Remix King. I hope you're doing well. New X72 said Oda released a small concept of Emu's face, and their hair and nose match the Verth statue. Has alabastin features, looks like Bucciarati from JoJo's. Where is that? Diptia says Morgie literally spent like 20 minutes about Loki getting impregnated by a horse. That, I'm not going to apologize for that, because that is genuinely wild, and I'm not going to be like Wikipedia or Google AI or whatever that just gloss over it, and it's like, oh yeah, and then some things happen, and then Loki gave birth to a horse and stuff. I'm like, no, that is a big deal. We need to get into that. That's we're not glossing over that. When important things are happening, when we're finding out important details, we don't just let it slide. All right? We don't let it slide. I bet the Norse don't want people to know about that part of their mythology. But we don't let that slide. Brett Fairchild says, during Little Garden, we learned that the people of Elbaf pray to a literal god of war called Elbaf that they named their nation after. Why not the mythical Zoan Elbaf? That way Oda gets to the mix. So I've actually already done a theory video on that. That was one of the first things I did when we were introduced to Loki. I predicted that it is the god Elbaf fruit. But as the arc has progressed, we haven't seen much of, nobody's fucking mentioned this god Elbaf, so I kind of just let that theory go because I'm like, all right, I guess that was just an early One Piece thing. But it'd be really cool if Loki did have the god Elbaf fruit. The only problem is that it does seem like an animal type fruit, and god Elbaf sounds more like a warrior, so I don't know. Yeah, New X7, where was this? Also, Words and You, are you still there? Um, all right, so here's what we're going to do first. First, I kind of want to do a poll because we're going to wrap stream kind of soon. First, we're going to do a little poll of what is most likely for Loki's Zoan. Norse mythology, a blend of Norse mythology concepts. Completely new god. Shizzer, thanks. We get Loki fucking a horse before water analysis. Hey, that apparently happened centuries ago. Or no. How far back is Norse stuff? Centuries, right? Sandman posted the sketches. You can find it on Reddit. Interesting. Interesting. Let's take a look. The following two male sketches by Oda seem to depict the true face of Emu. He says, the crime of the young queen who unleashed the poneglyph on the world. On that day she betrayed us. Alabasta's sin was allowing words to be left for the future. What? Yeah, I guess so. This seems like Emu's face. I feel like this is Lily's face. Because sometimes Sandman editorializes some things. Because he declares the following two male sketches, but that's Sandman's conclusion. All Oda says is, the crime of the young queen who unleashes the poneglyphs upon the world. On that she betrayed us. Alabasta's sin was allowing words to be left for the future. So this could easily be Lily. And then this might be Emu. I don't know if this is supposed to be Emu. Maybe if I had the actual tweet, maybe if you open it up. But this could be either or. I don't know if this is... It sounds like what Oda's saying, he's talking about the young queen. So at the very least, you would expect the queen to be the person that he is talking about to be in one of those images, right? Like, it would be weird for Oda to say, the crime of the young queen who unleashed the poneglyphs, and then it's just two faces of Emu. Alright, so let's see what the results of the poll are. Okay, so people are leaning towards a blend of Norse mythology concepts. Okay, then I'm going to say what seems the closest. What seems the closest? But I see a lot of split stuff, right? What seems closest? Something like Nidhogg, something like Fenrir slash Garm. Um, I could throw in Jormungandr. And then, is there anything else? I mean, Fafnir, we already kind of. Sure, let's throw in Fafnir. But I feel like Fafnir already falls in the category of like something like Nidhogg, right? Like a dragon. Um, but I mean, a different. Well, we're saying something like, right? So Nidhogg slash Fafnir. Here. Part of the reason I say it's a blend is also because like that eight-legged horse was even introduced in One Piece, but Oda called it Ashura, right? So like Oda's not very. He likes to blend some ideas. He's like, this is just Ashura. It just is. Okay, so people are leaning towards the Nidhogg idea. People are leaning towards Nidhogg. I think, for me, it's really difficult. I think the neck probably fits for a lot of people. To me, it's just strange because it's like the dragon thing. Like, I'm just like, why the repetitiveness with the lightning? It's just lightning on lightning because Ragnar does lightning, but also Loki does lightning. To me, like Nidhogg, Fenrir, like I think the dragon or the wolf both fit. I think either of those fit. The serpent, I like the idea of the serpent because it's already been. Oh my god. Hey! Harley, inside. Easy. Easy. Casey, out. Out. Casey, out. No. Casey. Casey, out. Casey, out. Out. Casey, out. Casey, why are you hiding here? Okay, whatever. Casey, come on out. Alright, whatever. Alright, well, Casey just wants to stay in here. Alright, one of our dogs is getting too aggressive with the other dog. Alright. Yeah, I mean, so like I've always liked the serpent idea just because to me it fits a lot of things that are Loki related already, and Norse myth, and I like it because it was already established in Little Garden. So I'm always gonna like continuity rather than dropping something new on us. So that's my personal preference, but I think at this point it does look like it's gonna be more of a beast, so either a wolf type or a dragon type. I think that's what it's looking like. Or something totally new. Tuna sub, thanks for the 5. Morge, random off-topic question. I know you're a movie fan. Have you heard about or seen Park Chan-wook's films? Old Boy, Handmaiden, etc. New movie yet? It's damn good. I've seen Old Boy. Oh no, actually, I haven't seen Old Boy. I've read the manga for Old Boy. Let's see. What are his films? What's his newest movie? The Handmaiden. I haven't seen The Handmaiden. Old Boy is the one that obviously everybody's heard of a lot. And I guess that's what made him more popular overseas. But I have not watched... no, I've not seen his films. New movie yet? So what's his newest movie? No Other Choice. I could check that out. I don't know. I do want to see his other stuff. Yakuta Dave. I think you were trying to send something. I'm sorry it didn't come through. Maybe you saw Jormungandr hybrid form. Yeah, it did seem to be like galloping though, so I don't know about that. Anything but another fucking dragon, says Bubble Bass. The thing is that Loki has a lot of similarities to Kaido, so I would not be surprised if Oda came up with the concept of Kaido retroactively, because I think Loki's probably more endgame plan. So I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if Oda already had the idea of like this super strong, like monsters type dude that has, you know, a dragon fruit and everything like that. And then he worked back because like Loki and Kaido so many like similarities from their very introduction to, you know, the ancient giant Oni, but then also like Kaido's introduction is about him falling from the sky, Loki the falling being dropped from the top of the tree. Loki and Kaido both interested in trying to find ways to kill themselves, but they're repeatedly unable to. There's a lot of similarities there. Fuck Griffith, thanks for the 2. Is Loki closer to Zoro or Kaido? In terms of like character inspiration? He's his own, like in One Piece you see a ton of like blended concepts. So like even earlier Bawa pointed out that if you go back to Usopp's farewell scene at Syrup Village, where he's telling everyone like, yeah, we're gonna keep everything that happened a secret here, like that in itself, like you could argue Usopp is the biggest comparison to Loki. But then obviously Loki and Zoro strong parallels from introduction and everything as well, but similarities to Kaido's introductions. I would argue that as a character, I think Loki's his own thing, but Oda does like to draw similarities to Zoro with him. There's similarities to Kaido. There's similarities to Usopp. There's a lot of similarities there. All right. Loki galloping. Galloping was probably not the right word, but it seemed to me like he's running the dun 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 dun. To me, that seems like he's running on all fours. So I'm sorry about galloping, but whatever you use for the term, like when animals on four legs run. All right, guys, we are gonna have to call it here. Yeah, everybody, thank you all for tuning in. We'll find out if we're right soon. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, haircut hopefully this week. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody. And with that, I will talk to you all next.